superhero space opera. Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. It's Tori, and today I'm super excited because I'm going to be giving you guys my video review of Wistful Ascending by JCM Berne. So the author very graciously sent me a physical copy of this book in exchange for a fair and unbiased review, and I read it in the month of November. You can check it out in my November wrap-up, and yeah, I've been very excited to get to the official video review for this book. I also have a full Goodreads review of this book, and I will do my best to remember to put it down in the whatever box that is down below. So definitely go check that out if you want to read my full review of this book. One of the things I knew I was looking for in this book is that I'm a huge fan of the TV show Firefly, and the things that I loved so much about that show were how character-driven it was, the sense of humor that the book had, while also giving us a story with a lot of heart, a lot of great side characters, and just an overall fabulous atmosphere and all of the things. I was in the middle of a whole bunch of fantasy books, and I decided that I was going to pick up this one as kind of a palate cleanser. I needed something very different from the books that I was reading, and boy did Joe Byrne deliver on what I needed when I read this book. Just like Firefly, this book centers very heavily around the characters, and especially its main protagonist, Rohan. Rohan is a half Ildrak hybrid warrior, which basically means he's like super strong. He's got all of this incredible magical ability to not die, and he is from a culture that was primarily used as war machines in the past, and Rohan definitely comes from a past where he was used in that way. He did a lot of things that he's not proud of, that he regrets. He is now trying to live out a quieter life on the space station Wistful, which is a sentient character of the book, which is something I absolutely love about this. She's amazing. Rohan's 9 to 5 in this book is that he is a tow chief. He goes out, flies out into space, and he grabs hold of any ships that are coming in to dock at Wistful, the space station, and helps them get into whatever bay or hangar that they are going to enter. Rohan has a fairly non-existent / low-key social life when we meet him in the beginning of this book, but he does have a small group of friends around him, including Wistful, the space station, and his best friend Witty, who is a security chief, I think, if I remember correctly. The beginning of this book has a very deceptive kind of slice of life vibe that I actually found really relaxing to read. It was something that really did a good job pulling me into Rohan as a character and getting me kind of comfortable with who he was and just what his motives were. He literally just wants to have a quiet life on this space station and do some good. I'm going to go into 3 main categories in this review. The first one is going to be characters, the second one is going to be world building, and the third one I'm going to talk about writing style and plotline. So let's start with characters, and I've kind of mentioned Rohan a little bit already and why I liked him so much. Rohan feels very authentic. He's a character that is very easy to kind of settle into the narrative. He has just enough humor to make things very funny to read, but at the same time, it never crosses the line into something that I would consider like straight comedy. So it was just enough, kind of like Firefly, where it's funny, but it still has all of the heart and soul that we really want in character-driven stories. There are so many good side characters in this book, and that is something that I cannot praise highly enough, because I love when the side cast feels very authentic and really adds a lot to the story and to the main character, and that is definitely what happened in Wistful Ascending. There are so many of them that I don't think I can mention them all in the review. I kind of already mentioned his best friend, security chief Witty. She is a fantastic character. She's Rohan's sparring buddy, and she knows him honestly better than he knows himself in a lot of ways, and she is just a great kind of anchor character for him and us as the reader throughout the whole book. The banter that happens between Witty and Rohan is something that I wanted to shout out as one of my favorite parts of this book. It is so funny. It feels like a pair of old friends just bickering and bantering at each other, and I absolutely loved it. The dialogue is very witty, it's very clean, it's very fun to read, and that was a huge plus for me in this book. There is a romance in this book, and I will say that I don't know that I'm the right reader to really comment a whole lot on the romance, because romance really isn't something that pulls me into a book. It can pull me out of a book very easily, but I feel like this one definitely didn't do that. There were a few moments where I just kind of read through the part, but again, I feel like that's more of me as a reader more than the story and the characters themselves. One of the things that I will mention about this is I think that JCM Berne did a really great job introducing a mature romance. Like, there were moments definitely when the characters felt a little silly. I feel like there's a tiny element of that in a lot of different relationships, regardless of your age. I mean, it doesn't matter how old you are, there's always that little spark of, you know, that self-doubt and that awkward kind of getting to know each other vibe. So I feel like he pulled that off in a way that to me felt very authentic and didn't like throw me out of the romance in any way. And I also love that he's bringing together two characters who already have established lives, and I think that that kind of romance is really refreshing to read about because there's a whole bunch of factors that tie into that we often don't have when we're reading about younger relationships. Let's move into world building. So my favorite part of the world building is the fact that all of the spaceships and space stations are sentient. Wistful is also a character in this story, and I love it. She has this very mysterious, ancient kind of vibe to her, which really did a great job giving a kind of vastness to the world as a whole just through this one character of the space station. And it kind of gives the impression that the world is so much bigger and so much more ancient than this little slice of it that we're reading in the book. When you're talking about different types of creatures and alien races, Joe gives us a smorgasbord of creatures to work with in this book. There are giant bear hybrids, there are reptilian races, there are some just what I don't even know how to describe them. They're just like really weird alien creatures that are like assassins. There's just so many different ones. You really get the sense that there's just so many different cultures in this universe, and honestly, he's set it up really well for the rest of the series that he can really pull anything in here. All of these kind of alien, vast, universal science fiction vibes I found really beautifully juxtaposed with the things like the 9-to-5 diner that Rohan goes to eat his breakfast/dinner at every day. And there was just something very beautifully nostalgic and familiar about that, which I think really added to the immersive quality that the world has. Last but not least, I'm going to talk very briefly about plotline and writing style. This was the area that for me personally as a reader I felt a little pulled away from, and that was just that this story definitely has kind of a comic book episodic feel to it, which I think works perfectly for the story that JCM Berne was trying to tell, and it works perfectly for the type of world, the type of character, and all of that. For me personally, I think it felt a little jarring sometimes, and the transitions between conflict to conflict to conflict definitely were harder for me to follow because I was, you know, okay, this is our conflict, we're moving forward, and then it would change to something else. And for me personally, again, that was something that was harder for me to follow as a reader. That being said, one of my absolute favorite moments of conflict happens about, I think, 2/3 of the way, 3/4 of the way through the book. And that was really the moment where I feel JCM Berne showed not only can he write really witty banter, he can write a immersive main character, he can do great with all of these different creatures and aliens, but he also can give us a really good gut punch when he needs to. And man, was that a beautifully written scene. I'm not going to say anything about it because I don't want to ruin or spoil anything, but oh man, that was like absolutely brilliant emotional writing, and I absolutely loved it. I definitely mentioned this already earlier on in the video, but I want to reiterate the idea that I think a lot of people, when they hear something like superhero space opera, they immediately kind of assume that it's satirical, or it's going to be like straight comedy, or it's meant to be very silly and lighthearted. And I just want to say that this book is not any of that. Wistful Ascending has so much great humor in it, but there was never one point during the book where I felt like it was just kind of a like satirical, farcical, silly feel. It was just funny in the parts that it was funny. So it was a great character-driven, like heart and wholesome filled book that also has a lot of humor in it. The nice thing about Wistful too is that it's very versatile as far as it is technically a standalone book. You can read it on its own, but it also has book 2 and 3 out already in the series. The second one is The Return of the Griffin, and the third one is Blood Reunion, which just came out recently. So whether you're looking for a standalone science fiction book to read in between other reads, or you're looking to start a very quick action-filled, fast-paced series, JCM Berne has got you covered. I will definitely be continuing this series at some point just because I really enjoyed Rohan's character, and I think he's going to be kind of a nostalgic read for me now. I think Joe Berne has created something honestly very unique and special with this book, and I definitely recommend it for, first of all, any fans of Firefly I think would really enjoy this book. But also if you're looking for science fiction fantasy that really has something unique to offer the genre and something very character focused, which is I know something that a lot of people struggle with in science fiction, is looking for something that really has a serious character driven focus. This is a book you should definitely check out. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed my review for Wistful Ascending. Please let me know down in the comments if you have read this book and what you thought of it. I hope you guys are all having a great week. I hope you are enjoying 5-star reads, and I will see you in the next video.